healing can happen. And that of course is some like super intense big conversation stuff that might be like really hard for people to listen to and sit with, but I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot there.
Yeah, it kind of brings up a question that I asked you in our previous interview, but I'm thinking of it actually now from the opposite perspective is, how were you able to bring love into such deep hurt? But when speaking about the violator, they also need to bring love into their such deep hurt. It's really both sides. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's kind of harder to maybe think about that because one is seen as the violator and the other as the victim. But really both people are hurting and both people really need to bring love into that space to heal.
Exactly. We think about like it makes sense to us to say that if I hate myself, I'm more likely to be an asshole to other people. Whereas if I love myself, I'm more likely to share kindness. And we all understand that on a more basic level, but when it comes to these like really big examples of harm like sexual violence, we forget those principles. And we're like, oh no, that person's a piece of shit. They should hate themselves. Um, but that's
Yeah.
just going to keep perpetuating them causing violence. Whereas if they really learn to like hold compassion for themselves and be accountable for what they did and sit with what they did and feel feelings about that and really like find someone who can support them in grieving and learning something new, like rewiring their brain, learning something new, um, that's when they'll be able to share kindness. And there's some gorgeous stories of this, of people who have caused harm, like becoming advocates against the harm that they caused. Right? Like ex-sex offenders
Mm-hmm.
now who now lead workshops and say, here's why I did this. We need to make sure this doesn't happen again. And they actually are making meaning. And this is a tangent, sorry, but this is something I actually said to my assailant was, you need to make a meaning of this in the same way that I have.
Wow. Oh, Marley, you're something else. Yeah, it's true though. It's just amazing that you had the ability and the emotional intelligence. Like your emotional IQ is like through the roof, really. But that
Mm,
you were able to do that work in front of your assailant is mind-blowing.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious about some of the clearing rituals that you do with women in general, and also, of course, women who have been violated. How do they, and of course, this is connected to emotional alchemy, but if you can kind of be a bit more specific about some of the clearing rituals and where does that come from?
Mm, great question. Um, I definitely encourage women to lean into spaces of support and containers when doing this work. I think that you can do it on your own, but I think it's like so much more powerful and safe when you have someone holding you. So just prefacing that and saying that like I'm very much here. I know you're here. There's like so many people available. But for me, some of the most powerful things come back to ritual, especially based on what I've learned from working with this grandmother, this Indigenous elder. And what she teaches is that all theater is based in shamanism. And so a lot of times I have people actually embody like a man and they exchange words that they've needed to hear for a long time, or they get off their chest what they've needed to express for a long time. Primal expression is hugely key to clearing and
Yeah,
healing.
yeah,
From my yeah, from and
agreed.
that's also on like a somatic perspective, is just giving sound to your emotions. Um, that instantly takes us out of the mind and into the body. Because I can talk all day about how I feel frustrated, but the moment I just allow myself to be like, ah, and give sound to it, that's
Mm-hmm.
when I actually shift it. That's when my body actually like lets go of the crap that
Mm-hmm.
I've been holding on to. So that primal embodiment work and that sort of like theatrical shamanism based work is all woven into this space.
Yeah, wow. So, you know, I also work with clients that have experienced sexual trauma, and I've noticed that there's some clients, both women and men, that really experience a tremendous amount of difficulty and what you're referring to as primal expression. What kind of things do you do if you see someone really struggling, you know, like not able to express their anger or their grief? How do you help them kind of move past that?
Mm-hmm. Really, and again, like I do take, I don't know if pride is the right word or whatever, but I'm very intentional about my spaces being trauma informed, because I know what it's like to be in a space where you're like so afraid of being in your own body and someone's asking you to do this like crazy wild shaking stuff and you're just like, what? Like it's too far out of people's comfort zone. So something I really commit to is creating a space that's within the learning zone, which to me means you're expanding your comfort zone while honoring your limits. So this is something I constantly anchor the women I work with in. And maybe simultaneously you have one woman like screaming her head off and like smashing a pillow on the ground, while someone else is just practicing breathing with any kind of sound on their exhale. And that might be a really powerful starting point for them. So I'll say it, I'll be like, hey, how does this anger sound in your body? And I'll join them in it. Like I will let them take the lead and I'll join them in that sounding so that they just start to get more comfortable with that primal expression. And then slowly that plants a seed and they get more and more comfortable with that, which is really coming back into their body.
Wow, you are so gentle. What an amazing way to facilitate something like that. How lovely. So, what would you like to say to other women that have experienced being sexually violated? Just in a couple words, you know.
Yeah, just that I love you and I see you and I'm like with you and in solidarity, and I commend you for being here. And obviously, like if you're someone who's listening to this podcast and you're a survivor, then clearly you've chosen healing and you've chosen love. So celebrate yourself for that, because you could have gone bitter and shut down and checked out, but you're here and you're trying and you're really claiming your rights to be an embodied leader of love. So
amazing.
Thank you. Yeah,
I love
just
that.
honoring you. Yeah.
Amazing. So can you please tell us about your offerings?
Yeah, so the next round of the Sacred Sensual Wholeness Academy, my 3-month juicy deep dive, starts in January. Enrollment will open in mid-December, and I'm super excited to see who gets called in to kick off 2021. I know it's been a wild year, 2020, so I just think it's going to be such a powerful moment for us all to embody something new or different and powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So definitely, I was just going to say, like, check out my website for that. And I mentioned in the last segment that I am creating a free virtual summit called Collective Sensual Rising. It's featuring tons of different guest speakers, amazing voices and leaders in sensuality. So people can sign up for that through my website starting in mid-December, and they'll be able to connect with me through there. Like they can find all my links and everything through there. But definitely, yeah, connect. Like I know, yeah, we know when we feel the call in our bodies to do this work. And so just pay attention to those calls and those cues, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Fantastic. MARLEE, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And feel free to check us out at www.divine-couples.com. And our social media page on Instagram is at divine.couples, adding intimacy, passion, and healing to your lives. If you want to send me an email, feel free. It's info@divine-couples.com. Thanks again for joining us on Divine Couples. I am your host, Naomi Slater.
Join us next time to continue your journey in exploring the depths of your life force energy. Until then, this has been your host, Naomi Slater. If you have any more questions on this subject, feel free to reach out. Follow her on Instagram at divine.couples. And to see all of her offerings, visit her website at theworldwideweb.divine-couples.com.